In the summer of 1947, the sun finally began to set on the British Empire in India. But this wasn't the story of a peaceful transition from colony to independence. It was a story of dreams, divisions, and disaster. This is the story of Pakistan, born from the ashes of British rule, but at a cost few could have imagined. The idea of Pakistan did not appear overnight. Its roots lay deep in history, dating back to the decline of the Mughal Empire in the 18th century. As Muslim political dominance faded and British rule tightened its grip on India, the Muslim community began to fear for its identity. The struggle wasn't just political, it was cultural, religious, and existential. Leaders like Sir Syed Ahmad Khan sought to revive Muslim education and create a path forward in a rapidly modernizing world. But they understood something profound. Muslims, as a minority in India, would need to protect their interests in a future where the British would not always rule. By the early 20th century, the All India Muslim League emerged as the voice for the subcontinent's Muslims. And at the center of this movement was Muhammad Ali Jinnah, a man who would go on to become the face of the struggle for Pakistan. Jinnah wasn't always the advocate for a separate Muslim homeland. In fact, he started his political career as a member of the Indian National Congress, fighting for Hindu-Muslim unity and a united India. But as time passed, Jinnah grew disillusioned with the Congress Party and its Hindu-majority leadership. The failure to adequately protect Muslim interests, combined with growing communal tensions, convinced Jinnah that Muslims needed more than promises. They needed a separate homeland. By the 1930s, the idea of a separate Muslim state began to take shape. The relationship between Hindus and Muslims was becoming increasingly strained. The Congress Party, led by figures like Jawaharlal Nehru and Mahatma Gandhi, pushed for a united, independent India. But the Muslim League, now under Jinnah's leadership, was moving in a different direction. Jinnah began to articulate what would later be known as the two-nation theory, the belief that Hindus and Muslims were two distinct nations with their own religions, cultures, and ways of life, and therefore they should have separate states. In March 1940, at a momentous gathering in Lahore, the Muslim League passed the Lahore Resolution, formally demanding independent states for Muslims in the northwestern and eastern zones of India. This was the first time that the idea of Pakistan was officially put forward. As World War II engulfed the world, India found itself caught in the global conflict. Indian soldiers fought for the British Empire, but back home, the fight for independence had reached new heights. The war weakened the British Empire, draining its resources and making it clear that British rule in India was unsustainable. By 1945, the end of the war also signaled the end of British colonial rule in India. But there was a problem. The communal divide between Hindus and Muslims had deepened. As the British prepared to leave, the question of what kind of country India would became increasingly difficult to answer. Several plans were proposed to keep India united. The British tried one last attempt, the Cabinet Mission Plan of 1946. It suggested a united India with significant autonomy for provinces, a compromise that might have prevented partition. But this plan, too, fell apart. The Congress, eager for a strong central government, opposed it. Jinnah, now firmly committed to his vision of Pakistan, saw this as yet another failure to protect Muslim interests. With the collapse of negotiations, it was clear that India would be divided. The demand for Pakistan had become unstoppable. In early 1947, the British, now desperate to leave, sent Lord Louis Mountbatten as the last viceroy of India. His task was to oversee the final transfer of power. Mountbatten, after weeks of negotiations, announced on June 3, 1947, that India would be divided into two nations, India and Pakistan. Pakistan would consist of two geographically separate regions, West Pakistan and East Pakistan, separated by over 1,500 kilometers of Indian territory. Muhammad Ali Jinnah's dream had finally become a reality, but it came at a heavy cost. On August 14, 1947, Pakistan was born. Jinnah became the nation's first governor-general. But as the new borders were drawn, chaos erupted across the subcontinent. Over 10 million people were forced to leave their homes in one of the largest mass migrations in human history. Hindus and Sikhs fled to India, while Muslims rushed to Pakistan. Violence spread like wildfire. Entire trains of refugees were attacked and massacred. Villages were burned to the ground. Families were torn apart. The communal violence claimed the lives of between 500,000 and 2 million people. It was a catastrophe that neither India nor Pakistan had foreseen. Jinnah, exhausted and in failing health, dedicated his final years to building Pakistan. He envisioned a secular state where Muslims could live freely, but where religious minorities would also be protected. In his famous speech to the Constituent Assembly, he declared, "You are free. You are free to go to your temples. You are free to go to your mosques. Religion is not the business of the state." But Jinnah did not live to see many of his dreams for Pakistan come true. He passed away in 1948, just a year after Pakistan's creation, leaving behind a young nation struggling with the burdens of partition, refugee crises, and the challenges of nation building. The birth of Pakistan was a triumph for millions of Muslims who sought a homeland of their own, but it also left behind a legacy of division, a painful wound that still shapes South Asia today. The partition of 1947 created not just two nations, but two identities, two paths, and often two conflicting memories of a shared history. Today, Pakistan stands as a testament to the resilience of its people. It has faced wars, internal strife, and external threats, yet it has endured. The story of Pakistan is not just a story of borders, it is a story of hope, struggle, and survival. The creation of Pakistan in 1947 was the beginning of a new chapter, not just for the subcontinent, but for the world. A chapter of courage, conviction, and above all, the pursuit of a dream that began in the hearts of millions. Thank you for watching. If you found this story of Pakistan's creation compelling, please subscribe for more deep dives into history and religion. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below.